Hello and welcome to another quick to the point After Effects tutorial. In this one we're going to revisit an old shot I worked on for a short film back in 2017, with the intention of doing a way better job now than I did back then. We took this plate, removed the car, added a couple of windows here to make the shot look a bit more balanced, and added some signs. Then we set fire to the building. Because a shot like this will have many stages to it, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to separate out every stage into its own standalone tutorial. This way it allows me to get more tutorials released rather than trying to find time to create one really long one. In this tutorial we're going to remove this car, we're then going to create a clean plate, as well as add in an extra set of windows here to give the shot and the building a little bit more balance. Okay, so with object removal, there's two methods I would use. First of all, we're going to use the super simple method, and luckily for this one it's a locked off camera, so the only thing moving is the character in the foreground. First things first, we're going to pick a frame, and like I said, as this is a locked off camera, the only thing that's moving is the guy in the front. So if we can get a frame where his arms are down, and we can see more of the background, that looks about right. So what we'll do is we'll go up to composition, save frame as, file, and Photoshop layer. Plate. And then hit render. Okay, so now let's go over to Photoshop. Okay, so now we've got our frame open in Photoshop. We just want to select the lasso tool, and then we are going to just tightly draw a little mask around the car. Okay, so we've got quite a tight selection around the car, and this should hopefully stop the generative AI from getting confused. So we're just going to click the Generative Fill button and type in remove car. Hit return and let that render it out. And that'll come up with three options, and we're going to see what I like. And there we go. Already response number one is looking pretty damn good. So let's just have a quick look through the other options it gives. Sometimes it does some random stuff. I don't know what's going on down here, but the brickwork looks pretty good for what we need. Again, this also looks good. It's got a little bit of, just trying to copy this over here, but again, the floor and the brickwork look fantastic. But we're going to go with option number one, as that looks perfect for what we need. Remember, when this shot's completely finished, we're going to be having comping on some burn marks. We're going to be darkening it down to nighttime. There's going to be fire, there's going to be glow, there's going to be sparks and smoke and everything. So any imperfections in this layer, you're probably not going to see. And for this reason, this is actually a really good result. Considering that's only really taken us a couple of seconds, that would have taken me, as I'll show you later, several hours of fiddling around, grafting bits of the shot down to cover the car up. Okay, so we're going to move on to the guy now. So we're going to paint out Chris in the foreground so that we've got our clean plate. So again, if we zoom in and then draw a tight mask around Chris. Okay, now that's selected, click on Generative Fill, remove man, hit return, and let that render out. And there we go. See you at the job center. You just go through all three options. That's looking, I mean, that looks perfect. I don't think we're even going to register this bit here. I think we'll go with response number one on this one. Like I say, we're not going to see this section here. I don't really know what's going on with that. But if we toggle that off, we should be fine. Yeah, we shouldn't notice that at all, to be fair. What we're probably going to end up having is lots of smoke and flames, and once it's all darkened up with some scorch marks over it, we can hide any little blemishes that's caused by that. And we'll leave that as that. Or actually, let's go and try and tidy this bit up. We're probably not going to need to, but if I just select around here, Generative Fill, remove grey object. This might be a bit hit and miss because I don't really know what that shape is. And there we go, response number 1, response number 2, and number 3. What looks the most natural? Let's go with number 2. Those bricks seem to match up quite nicely. Those bricks seem to match up quite nicely. That's quite a good result, that. Okay, so last but not least, we are going to now add in some windows here. I'm going to try and keep it along the same line as those. Hide this alarm box here, and we'll see what happens. So if I draw a mask like this, trying to keep it in the same perspective, generative fill, add windows, see what happens. Hit return, let that render out, and we'll see what we get back. And straight away, it's bang on the money. So with that said, we can hit save. So Command or Control S to save. And now let's jump back into After Effects and bring in the clean plate we've just made. Okay, so Command or Control I to import, and then we're just going to find the plate we've made, hit return, and we just want to bring that in as a footage layer. Drag that into our comp, and there we go. A pretty damn good clean plate. So let's rename that clean plate for Good Housekeeping. Later on in the series, when we've got a million different fire, smoke and burn assets going on, it's going to get very, very messy very, very quickly. So right, with our clean plate on, let's turn that on. We are going to hit T to bring up the opacity, drop that down, and we're just going to get the pen tool here, and we're just going to draw a mask around the car. And then drag the opacity up, turn off the mask, and we just have a quick look in to see if we need to feather that at all. I don't think we do. I think that looks pretty good. We don't need to do any blending on that. That looks pretty good. So there we go. That is the quick and easy method to remove objects in After Effects. Now obviously if the camera was moving, what we would do is we would track the shot in Mocha and then put the tracking data in a null and then parent the clean plate to the null. And there you have it. That's a really quick method for object removal in After Effects and Photoshop. And just briefly, what I'm going to do, I am going to show you the old method that I would use. Sometimes if you're not getting a good result with Photoshop, you've got to do it manually. And this is how I would have done the shot. So if we get the original plate, drag it down into the new composition window, and let's pop it there. So we would call this one, let's just call that tick plate B. Basically what I'm going to do is just graft bits of this brickwork over the car, and then I will do the same for the floor. Now I'm not going to do the whole thing, it would take hours and make this tutorial insanely long, but just to give you the idea of how it works, I'll just do a couple of patches. Select the plate, duplicate it by Command or Control D, and luckily because it's locked off, we don't have to worry about tracking so much. But what I'm going to do just for good housekeeping is go up to Layer, select Null, we're going to rename that Brickwork. Okay, so with the pen tool, I'm just going to take a chunk of this brickwork and right click that layer, transform, center anchor point and layer content, get the brickwork null, and just for good housekeeping, just move it over towards where the patch is going, and then we are going to turn off the mask visibility. Drag this down until you've got a decent-ish match. Again, because we're going to really darken up this shot, you can be forgiven a little bit for not having perfect matches on this one, but obviously whatever shot you're working on, try and get the best result you can. Open up the feather properties on the mask by hitting F, and then just drag it out a little bit, just a couple of pixels on this one. and then duplicate, drag it over, and do the same. Drag that one under there, I think we can get away with that. And select those both, parent them to the brickwork one. And what I'll even do as well is select them all and then just color them so that they're all the same. Because with this method, you're going to have tons and tons of layers. And if you can group them by color, it's a little bit easier to see when you need to change anything or tweak anything. So with this one, you can see there's a little color variation in the brickwork. I'm going to select that layer, go to Effects, Color Correction and Levels. Okay, and we're just going to tweak the colors using the method listed in this tutorial. I go into a lot more detail in it, so if this is new to you, click the link and find out more. Just in the interests of keeping this tutorial short, I'm just going to quickly whip through this. So go to the red channel, Alt-1, and then bring the whites down a little bit. And we're just trying to match up the color in each channel, so that when we go back to normal mode, it's a nice blend. But like I say, with this particular shot, there's going to be smoke, there's going to be fire, there's going to be all sorts going on, so you could quite easily get away with quite a lot here. There we go, that's a nice match. And then what we can do now is duplicate those two layers and then move them down. And you can repeat that until you've met the ground. That's how I patch over the car with the brickwork. I'm just going to do a little bit for the floor as well. And it's a little bit harder on this one because I'm probably going to take a little bit of the floor from over here because we don't really have much reference there. And we should be able to get away with that. So duplicate so go back to the bottom layer, duplicate that, and we're going to color that one. Let's just, for argument's sake, let's go blue. So we've got some visual difference between all the layers because it's going to get messy very, very quickly with this method. So create a new null object, call this one floor, color that one blue, and then parent. Actually, no, before we do that, move that null object over to where we're going to place the floor. And then with this one, we are going to just grab a few layers of brickwork and then a chunk of floor. Actually, let's grab the lot. Should be able to get away with that. So as before, right click, transform, center anchor point layer content, and then we will parent that to the floor null object. Move that over to where we want to place it. Turn off the mask visibility. And we just want to kind of eyeball where this is going to sit. That looks about level. Drag that to the top. Those two layers to the top there. And feather it a tiny bit, we don't need much. Again, there's a slight colour difference there, but it's not that noticeable. And once we're done with the other bits and bobs, we should be fine. The only issue is now we've got the repetition of this little white thing, which I'm assuming is a bit of trash. We can address that later. What I would do with that is I would duplicate this layer, turn the mask back on, shrink that down. And this is where it gets really fiddly because you then start using tiny bits to graft over. Turn off the matte so you can see where the edges are. And you can probably feather that a little bit more to blend it. And again, you'll see little repetition bits here, and that's one of the downfalls. Apart from the time, this is one of the downfalls of this method of object removal. The reason why I've grouped the layers by colour and parented them to a null object is that if I wanted to, I could move the null object and move the whole collection there. And depending on the shot, you could always pre-comp them so that you could then colour tweak them individually if you needed to. But that is how I would have done it before generative AI. With this particular method, you will have a lot more control over the end result. But with generative AI, sometimes it can be a bit hit and miss. I had an instance once where I was trying to remove a man from a shot. It took the prompt to remove man and it replaced it with a Chinese woman. No idea why. Okay, so there you have it. There's method 2. A lot more fiddly and a lot more time consuming, but it gives you a lot more control over the end result. Going back into method 1 we used earlier, we're going to stick with this one because it was nice and quick. And like I said, when I did this shot originally, it would have taken me several hours to get the object removed, the window replicated, and to get to this stage would have taken me a good day's worth of work. So that's it for object removal. There's 2 methods, a quick one and a slow one. So in the next part of this, what we're going to do is use the roto brush to make a matte of Chris here, so we can comp in the other elements for the rest of the scene. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you found this tutorial useful. These tutorials are designed to teach the techniques and principles that can help you in your projects.